Well, hello, and thank you so much for joining us for another one of our fall 2023 webinars. This one is focused on independence and independent living during inclusive higher education programs. And the objectives we're going to cover today are understanding inclusive college options for students with intellectual disabilities in Colorado. We're going to briefly go over those available options for you. We're going to talk about a few of the common ways that these programs support students with developing independence. And then the bulk of our time is going to be hearing from graduates and their parents about their experiences within inclusive higher education programs and how they developed independence naturally across campus, but also more specifically when we talk about living in the college dorms or apartments. So real quick, what is inclusive higher education? Inclusive higher education programs provide an alternative admission pathway for students with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So students don't have to meet typical college entry criteria. Instead, they apply to the program directly. They have to identify as somebody with an intellectual disability and have proof of need for these services. And then through that admittance to the program, they become an admitted student to the institution. These programs are fully inclusive and normative, meaning we're not creating special education courses or special education programs on college campuses. These are students going into traditional college courses with neurotypical peers, taking going to events across campus, participating in clubs like anybody else on campus, where they're fully included and supported to be able to be actively engaged on their campus. Students in these programs take courses that align with their career goal. So they're going to select courses from the course catalog that are going to build up skills for them so that they can attain and maintain the employment that they desire after graduation. Really big caveat and unique component of these programs is that students within these programs have access to both accommodations and modifications. This is the only route that students would be able to access modifications at the college level. And because of that, they're not going to complete a traditional degree. Instead, they're walking out with a certificate. It's a credential given by the institution of higher education. They have transcripts and grades, and they're held to high standards. But because their content is modified, their outcome is modified too. So they're completing a comprehensive higher education certificate across all these programs. And then during their time in these programs, they participate in career readiness and independent living preparation. And they have lots more support in what we call the 4 domains or the 4 pillars of inclusive higher education. And those are academics, social, career, and independence. And that's really what we've spent most of this fall webinar series discussing, is each one of these categories. So today we're going to really hone in on how students receive support for the development of independence. So real quick, what are the programs that offer this type of service for students in Colorado? We have Elevate at Arapahoe Community College, that's in Littleton. We've got the Office of Inclusive Services at UCCS in Colorado Springs, and they have on-campus living. We have GOAL, the Go On and Learn program at UNC Greeley, and they also have on-campus living. And most recently, Regis University developed a program called Global Inclusive Program. They have on-campus living as well, but their program is a bit shorter in duration, typically 1 to 2 years. All of these students that enroll in these programs have access to financial aid because these programs have received CTP status. So students can complete the FAFSA in order to help chip away at the cost of college. I do want to point out that because of their certificate outcome and that modified outcome, they don't have access to federal loans. Instead, it's federal grants and work-study opportunities. But we still highly encourage that every family interested in this completes that FAFSA so they can see what they're able to attain. And then, as I mentioned, all of them are pursuing that certificate, and statewide we call that the Comprehensive Higher Education Certificate. So it holds some weight across all of these programs and can be transferred across all of these programs. And we're really excited that we have 2 more coming down the line this upcoming fall. So there's a RAM Scholars program being developed at CSU in Fort Collins, Colorado, really focused on agriculture and farming trade outcomes for students. And then MSU Denver is providing inclusive higher education solutions this coming fall, where students will be able to access the course catalog on that campus and receive the supports to pursue a specific area of study that they desire. And then in 1 more year, we're going to be expanding to an institution in a rural community, likely on the Western Slope, and then also another community college to increase some financial access for our families and students. So with that in mind, kind of as the base level of inclusive higher education, I want to speak to really briefly, how do these programs promote independence within their programming? So I'm going to do this in two parts. The first is just general independence support. So this is not specific to living, but it's just developing independence. So all of these programs are based in person-centered planning. So students that are enrolled in these programs will meet with program staff to figure out what are their goals, what is their future career goal, but also what are some things they just want to develop as a person. And they're going to work through what are the ways that they can complete that or achieve those goals during their time in the program. There's also always a specialized class or a direct instruction class each semester. So this is where students do meet with their peers from the program and the staff from their program on a regular basis to talk more explicitly about some skill development. Things that typically are addressed in this class is money management. They might talk about community access and how they can travel around to do the things that they need to independently. They're going to talk a lot about self-advocacy and developing that skill. So there's a lot that can go into that curriculum, but that's really important to know that there is a space for students that are receiving direct instruction from their program staff to develop those skills. Also, these programs are so passionate about giving students choice and creating environments of choice and ensuring that students have natural consequences for the choices that they make. And this really builds up independence when we start to fade away some of those strong supports and encourage and empower our students to make their own decisions. They learn through those experiences, whether through failure or success, and they start to develop a stronger sense of independence. There's also going to be lots of peer mentor guidance. So these programs are largely run day to day by peer mentors that are with students in classes, in clubs, in dorms all across campus to support them more organically and naturally. So peer mentors are going to help with the use of downtime for our students, helping them figure out what's an appropriate use of downtime. They're going to help them with calendar tracking and making sure that they're staying on top of their schedule. They're also going to help them use natural supports. And what I mean by that is prompting students to consider who is somebody in this environment that would naturally help anybody with the question that you might have. So an example is if a student gets lost during their first few weeks of the semester and they don't know where their class is, instead of them going to their program staff and asking them to figure it out, peer mentors and others from the college are going to promote that our students would think about who's the best person to go to right in front of me, what's a natural support. Maybe I'm going to go to the welcome desk in the building that I'm in, and that individual will be able to help me find what building I need to go to, who else I can connect with. So above and beyond just those general supports for developing independence, we also have the residential living component. And out of the 4 programs that currently exist, UCCS, UNC, and Regis University all have on-campus living opportunities for students. They are not required for students, but they are highly encouraged as this develops this skill. And typically within those programs, you're going to see within their first year or two, students are placed with peers from their program. So they're not going to room with a neurotypical peer from across campus. They're going to have somebody from their program living in their apartment or dorm with them. That's just to have some ease of supports going in to support both of them or several of them at a time. But I will point out that they live in buildings, whether floors or apartment buildings, with neurotypical peers from the college. So it's not an isolated place, but their roommates specifically within the first couple of years are going to come from the program. And then as they develop skills, they can fade that out. Typically, there's going to be scheduled support from peer mentors when peer mentors are going to come in to the dorm or to the apartment to offer support in cleaning and chores, maybe take students grocery shopping, helping them cook, navigating roommate conflict, those kinds of things where peer mentors are going to be scheduled to do so. Also, there's a high emphasis on those natural supports within the residential settings. So those would be like an RA, resident assistant, or an RD, resident director. Those are staff that already exist in those spaces. And so these staff are trained and supported to support students with intellectual disabilities as well, and to be a good go-to for them if they have any need. And then as needed, there's going to be additional support provided by the program staff if there's specific needs from students. I will point out here that they do not offer 24/7 care or 24/7 oversight. And so that's where if there's any medical conditions or something else that would require 24/7 care, that's where we would encourage families to connect with their Medicaid waiver, because waiver services can allow for other staff members paid by the waiver service to come into dorms and apartments to offer support, maybe do more of that overnight care if needed, things like that. So we really encourage a braiding of those services and having that be a support. But ultimately, when we look at this residential living supports, we're looking at really natural support from our peer mentors, use of natural supports from the staff around, and then access to the program staff to go above and beyond as needed. So now I want to open it up for you guys to hear from our panelists, because they're the ones with the lived experience of living independently during college and living independently after college. So we're going to take time to hear from them and then ask them a few questions.
My name is Michael Dilworth, and I went to college at the University of Colorado Springs.
Awesome. And what was your favorite part of college, Michael?
My favorite part of college is actually taking like fun classes and doing like my homework and stuff. And I love doing like homework because I get to be independent by doing what I can to work things out with the people that really helps me a lot.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you, Michael. I'll have your parents jump in and do a quick intro for us.
Okay, I'm Stephanie Dilworth.
And I'm Dean Dilworth.
And I think one of the biggest growths in independence we saw with Michael was with his independence, his ability and also his confidence to care for himself and to be on his own and be able to not fear what was coming. He felt confident that he could handle it.
That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Brendan, we're going to have you go next.
Okay. My name is Brendan. I went to school at University of Northern Colorado at Community. And my favorite part of our college is probably seeing friends where I know, like my Berkeley boys, and also seeing the campus.
Awesome. Thanks, Brendan. Molly?
So I think his growth was he voiced, I think he thought more learned to think a little more for himself. Like if given the choices, he had clear opinions about that. And I think that kind of came out for him a little more through college.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, and Brianna.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brianna Kimball. I graduated from UCCS of May 13th of 2022, and I was a UCCS ambassador, and I gave campus tours there.
Awesome. And what was your favorite part of going to college?
My favorite part was, I guess, being out of the community and, spend a lot of time with your friends and your peers and your mentors. They help you, with homework, and they also, take notes for you while you're participating in class and stuff like that. And the glow dances and the homecoming dances were a lot of fun. So I remember all of that, and including the campus tours and all the tour guide meetings that I attended from a long time ago. So that was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Lots of fun memories. Very cool. Janet, how about you?
I am Janet Kimball. I'm Brianna's mom. I would say that the biggest areas of growth we saw for Brianna was leadership skills, especially as she became, a junior and a senior in college. She was there to help mentor the incoming students. teach them around the campus, teach them all about living at the Lookout. I also saw a big jump in her organizational skills, especially using the calendar. UCCS is very diligent about using calendars, and that continues to this day. She's putting stuff on her calendar constantly. So that was huge.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you all for introducing yourselves. We're going to dive into some questions where I'll have both graduates and parents speak to your experience with independence, developing independence while you were in college. So we're going to dive into those questions here shortly. All right, panelists. Well, I would love for you to share a bit about how you developed independence during your time in your college program. So we can kick it off with you, Michael, if you're okay with that. I'd love for you to share about what your living experience was like when you were at UCCS.
When I was at UCCS, I lived on my own with like 3 roommates, and the housing there was in a apartment with like a bedroom and a bathroom of your own, and then you get to share a common area with a kitchen area as well. And I usually get like a lot of good comments on it.
Yeah, was it fun to be in your own place?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Do you remember, Michael, as you were learning to live in that apartment and live with roommates, what were some ways that you practiced being independent?
I learned to be independent by like using my time wisely, like setting up times to do my laundry and to do service planning with my professors. And then I usually sometimes do like a lot of work around the house, getting stuff organized, and that's how I do great at college, because I love college a lot. I do a lot of homework. I try to like plan out what I try to do, and then
Awesome.
I set up the time.
Awesome. Using that schedule.
Yeah.
Very cool, Michael. I'm going to jump over to Brianna, who is also at UCCS, to share about her on-campus living experience too. Can you talk a bit about what your living situation was like?
A living situation, you mean like after high school or just from high school to college?
Just during college. So when you were at UCCS in the OIS program, how were you on campus? Were you in a dorm, an apartment? Did you have roommates?
Yes, I had a bunch of messy roommates, of course. And I was, also living there on my own as well, just like Michael said. And some of my roommates were good, and some of them were kind of like, just bossy as always. But anyway, so my experience from college was, making sure, that I communicate with everyone, and making sure, how to show them how to get to classes on time, making sure, that they do their homework on time, and, not be 15 minutes late. And I was very proud to be on time for all my classes. And I remember the first time that I went to UCCS, I did, before I went to UCCS, I did an interview with Julian Christie, and that was a lot of fun. And that was a long time ago. And
was that on campus, Brianna? Did you do an interview on campus?
Yes.
So during that time that you were interviewing, did they show you what the apartments would look like? Did you kind of get a taste of what that could be?
No, it wasn't part of that. It was just part of the interview. And me being independent was a lot of fun. And I remember that I was lost the first time during campus, and I had to FaceTime Chrissy Casa, and I had to let her and Julie and Kelly And, John Dumas know that I was, lost on campus, but afterwards I didn't get lost and I felt very independent and I was capable of my schedule and, all of that too. So
I love what you're sharing about having to navigate campus. So now that you guys are living on campus in an apartment, having to figure out how to get to classes on time, potentially getting lost and using your resources from your staff to find where to go. I think that's a very common situation to find yourself in. So that's a really good example. Janet, did you want to jump in on that? I saw you unmuted.
Yeah, so Brianna was the first student to live at UCCS and to move into the Lookout. I don't recall if anybody else had moved in at the same time. So that's why they weren't showing, the units and stuff. And it was more of a separate piece at that point too.
Gotcha.
He was in both a 4-bedroom and a 3-bedroom, and they all have their own bathrooms with each bedroom and, common kitchen area, living area, washer, dryer.
Yeah. Yeah. The apartments at UCCS are pretty snazzy, I would say, far snazzier than my college living experience. So Brendan, I want you to speak to how UNC living on campus looks. I know it's a bit different, more classic dorm kind of style. So tell us a bit about what your living scenario was when you were at UNC.
Yeah, okay. And my roommates, I think some of them are pretty cool and nice, and some of them is probably not like not being nice, but sometimes there would be being just being a cool friend to live there from in USC. So
Yeah. And with your roommates, Brendan, did you only have one roommate at a time or did you have several roommates at a time?
I think I got like since I was there, I have like like 3. Yeah, maybe like 1, 2, and 3 roommates. So I don't know.
Overall.
And then, yeah, in my senior year was probably my 4 roommates. And so
Brendan, where did you live on campus? What was the name of that tower that you lived in?
Tuna Hall.
Right. And did you have a kitchen and living room or a kitchen and stuff and washer and dryer like at UCCS or no?
No, well, Tuna Hall we do, but it's like in the hallway.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
But did
More
you have
shared.
did you have your own room?
Yes, I did.
And how about your own bathroom?
Yeah, so I'm sharing the bathroom when I was at UNC, and same with my apartment as well.
You
So,
share. Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. So that's kind of the more classic college setup, right?
Yeah.
So you talked a bit, Brendan, about your classes and living with roommates. Was there anything else that you feel like helped you be more independent when you were in college?
Yeah, I think it helps me for independence, like trying to get good grades and trying to be a good friend.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that.
Did you have to you had to put stuff in your you did a lot of work on scheduling like Michael and Brianna have talked about, right? How did you do that?
Right.
Remember?
Yeah, I try to remember it. So sometimes I was follow schedule on my phone right now, but so sometimes I always forget something, and I just like know what I do. So
Yeah, that's an awesome system to figure out, a scheduling system on your phone. Love that.
yeah.
So, okay, I'm going to open this up to parents really quick. So Stephanie, Dean, Molly, and Janet too. When your students were moving into these dorms on campus, what was that like for you? Yeah, how did that feel?
I was a nervous wreck. To be perfectly honest, I was a nervous wreck. Dean was fine. At least he acted fine.
She does enough worrying for both of us. So I didn't worry about it.
Very normal though.
Yeah.
We left and I said that I feel like I jumped off a cliff.
Yeah.
We left school.
Yep.
But I remember texting him the next day and just saying a couple days later, and how are you doing? And his quote was like, it's awesome. Or I mean, I'm having so much fun or whatever. So it's like, okay, well, at least the first weekend was good.
Yeah, we made it.
Well, and with us, it was kind of, we expected Michael to contact us at least once a day.
Mhm.
And that, I mean, in addition to that, of course, the people in the program were keeping contact with him as well.
Mhm.
So it was just for my peace of mind that I had him call every day.
Fair. Janet, what about you?
So when Brianna moved into the Lookout, she had staff through her Medicaid waiver services, pretty much ready to go. So that was reassuring. And also at that time, the staff at the Lookout was very good as far as keeping an eye on the students. They have cameras there. They would notify us about, when staff was coming or going, or when staff wasn't showing up, things like that. The biggest concern we had is at the time, there was just a dirt road between the campus and the Lookout parking lot. And it's very dark at night. So we had a rule that, Brianna wasn't allowed to, be on campus at night in general, and certainly not walking across that road. So she'd either have to be with a buddy, or she would have to be on phone call or FaceTime with somebody while she was doing that. So
Okay.
you just put the security measures in place the best that you can to
Right.
make you feel comfortable. That's
Yeah.
that's a big relief. And also we use the GPS tracking through Life 360.
Yeah, we did too.
We
I
still
love
use
that. Well, that speaks to our next category of just sharing a bit about what were some of the supports put in place for you students that you felt like you could get help with living with roommates and taking care of your apartment, all of those things. And then also on the parent side of things, what were some of the things in place that gave you peace of mind? So I want to ask you guys, what did your program do to support you when you were living in your apartments or in your dorm? Michael, do you remember how your program offered some support to you?
They tried to help me by remembering what I need to do as far as keeping track of my things and keeping track of like cleaning my apartment and stuff too. And I sometimes am a troublemaker sometimes, but
So they had to keep you in check.
yeah.
Well, Michael, do you remember having services come in to help? You remember to do your cleaning and grocery shopping?
Yeah.
That was an outside agency, right?
Yeah.
And so that was through your Medicaid waiver, which it sounds like, Brianna, you had that set up too. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Yes, indeed. And when I had, staff, when they showed up and, when I opened, the door for them, when they helped me do like cleaning and they helped me like cook. And sometimes I used to cook on campus, and sometimes I would like go out to dining halls and, stuff like that. And, just making sure, that you keep, everything organized and not keep it messy. And that happened to me a few times when I was at UCCS, and the staff came and they helped me fix it. And it was a lot of hard work. And, just to make sure that the apartment was, very nice and tidy and sparkly and clean.
Awesome. I love that.
I was just going to interject and just say that when Brianna and Michael started UCCS, they were not a TIPSID program yet.
Okay.
So there was a complete separation between the independent living and the UCCS or Office of Inclusive Services.
Right.
But as time went on and they got that designation, then they started putting in some more support. So my understanding now is there's a lot more supports going on within the apartments itself, and people still utilize their Medicaid waiver services if they have them as well.
Yeah, we see a lot more braiding of supports where, peer mentors will be scheduled to go into apartments on a weekly basis based on what students need, and they track, chores and how they're navigating roommate conflict, all those things. And then they also can have Medicaid waivers come and pick them up for like grocery shopping, some of those pieces. So there's a little bit of partnering with that. I'm curious, Brendan and Molly, what it looked like at UNC, if you guys had peer mentors that were helping you, Brendan, keep your dorm clean, or
Yeah,
what kind of support you had.
I think my support was probably like my room will always be clean, but like sometimes I I
Did you need some help with cleaning your room sometimes, Brendan?
Or your bathroom. Let's talk about the bathroom.
the bathroom is kind of hard, but sometimes I always take it easy. So
So who came to help you with that cleaning of the bathroom?
mostly
Mom,
well mostly me and my roommate, but sometimes my mom always helps me for a little bit.
I think you wiped up the sink and mirror area, but when it came to the toilet shower room, we team tagged when I visited usually. Or when Aaron's mom, like your last year, even Aaron's mom. So we didn't do supports. I think if Brendan, if you had more of a true apartment setting with a kitchen, we would have considered the SLS support, but we tried not. And the first year, your freshman year, remember, I think his name was Dylan, and he was like he wasn't officially a peer mentor, but he kind of was. He was a typical student that and he did a little bit of like helping, but then the other years, not so much. And I didn't feel that the program provided much support on cleaning, like supervising that stuff. I feel like it fell to the students and families that depended on, their level of what's clean and my level of what's clean is
Right.
So, which is not like, that's very college. That's very typical age stuff. So
Totally.
And also
go ahead.
And also I also do my laundry once a week. And I also do some get some grocery shopping and getting food at the diner as well. But sometimes I would say,
Brendan, tell them how did you how did you get groceries? Because you were independent on your laundry, I think, either doing it there or at home. And how did you do with groceries?
Sometimes I would walk because groceries, and sometimes I ask someone to take me get some food, drinks, kind of stuff.
Was that like when you would ask somebody to take you, were those typically peer mentors or were those just friends of yours?
Like friends of mine.
Just people you met.
Sometimes I think it was peer mentors also.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Okay, anything else that you guys want to share about the supports when it comes to independence on campus that you guys experienced, both from the programs or from outside agencies?
Well, it's interesting. In UCCS, I felt like the police were a support too, the campus police, because I know there was one time when there was a misunderstanding as to what time Michael was supposed to go to work. And it was supposed to be in the afternoon, and he thought it was in the morning, and went, and nobody was there. And he ended up, the police came by and helped him work through that. And of course, they called Julie and Dr. Casa. But do you remember that, Michael? No? Okay.
He's repressed
Blocked it out.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if you had this at the apartments, but I don't remember seeing a front desk. But Brendan, you had your front desk at Turner Hall because everyone walked through the lobby to then go up the elevators or the stairs. And
Yeah.
they could be a little bit helpful on meeting up with people or whatever. There was that one time when your aunt couldn't find you and no
Yeah.
one could find you. And it was just one of those, like, he had gone out this door and he was outside and she was inside looking for him. And you called, I think they got a hold of someone at your program, like James. And
Yeah.
so that was like a good example of, yay, they're only a phone call away. And he was, of course, a little alarmed. They don't like to lose students. So he was like, what? But I think your phone had died. It was just one of those, like,
All of the
stereotype
things.
The phone had died, so he couldn't call him, and I was trying to call him, and from Golden, but it was a lesson in, like, yeah, glad that the staff has cell phones that work all the time, kind of to support as needed.
Yeah, an added point of contact. And I love too, Stephanie, the use of campus police and even just residential staff, like you mentioned, Molly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, RAs and RDs too are pretty typical for students to have some point of contact with and some support with.
Oh yeah, RAs too, Brendan. I remember you knew your RAs also.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, now I kind of want to shift to so you guys have these independent living experiences during college. You have these supports to kind of help you build some, strategies and schedules and things like that. And now it's so cool that all of you are living independently post-college. And so I would love for you guys to share about your current living situation. Do you have roommates? Are you in apartments? What are you doing now? And talk a little bit about how you reached that goal of being independent. So Brianna, do you mind if we kick it off with you? Tell us where you're living these days.
When I first started living here,
Yeah, so can you tell us, like, are you in an apartment? Are you in a house? What
well, I
kind of
call
living
my
situation?
apartment a house, so it could be both.
Okay.
I think the situation to moving into this apartment was not like, crying type of a situation, but more, it was just like more stressful because we've been, so busy, like, waiting for furniture to show up, and that took forever. And some of the furniture got lost, and so that was a difficult situation for my parents. And then afterwards, we met up with a friend of ours, and she was a designer for this brand new apartment. And her name is Stephanie, and she has a daughter. She has her daughter named Madeline, and Stephanie and my mom did the first welcome home, furniture reveal and a bunch of other cool stuff with it. So that was a lot of fun. And
So you've been settling in and making it your own, right?
yes.
So can I ask you a couple follow-up questions real quick, Brianna?
Yeah.
Do you live with any roommates or do you live alone?
Just alone. I decided to not get a roommate because I thought it would be a pain in the ass to get one, but I just think it's better for me, to live on my own and, put stuff on my calendar and blah, 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 this and that, and go to work.
Awesome. So you've enjoyed living alone since graduating and moving into your apartment.
And I love it. And I'm not a nervous wreck. And all that. So
Awesome. Janet, do you want to speak to that process of when Brianna started living on her own and what that was kind of like for you guys?
Yes, so we got lucky that we were aware of a brand new building being built and got on the waiting list. So Brianna actually was the first person to get keys there, and obviously needed she has a 2-bedroom, 2-bath in the event that she has friends that want to stay over, or family that comes to visit. Specifically, she wanted extra space when her sister comes to visit. So we had to furnish the entire place, and we used all of the money that Brianna saved from working at college, and that paid pretty much for almost everything. And we did work with our friend Stephanie, who's a designer, and we asked Brianna lots of questions to identify like what her style is and her decorating style would be. And then we'd identify, like, say it was a couch, we'd identify a couple different couches and find out which couch she liked the best. So she basically selected everything herself, with a little guidance, from us based on what she was telling us she liked. And as far as security, we do have a Ring camera outside her door. She has a Ring alarm system on her door. She's on the first floor, but elevated, so there's no way to get to her windows. Otherwise, we would have the sensors on the windows. And, we can all see her coming and going on the Ring camera, and anybody else that might be lurking, in the area. And even her sister in Florida keeps an eye on her from Florida that way.
Awesome. Very cool. All right. Well, Michael, I would love for you to share about your living situation. Tell us, are you in an apartment? Do you have any roommates?
I'm living on my own in an apartment, which is good for me because I wanted to have a space where I can actually have the feel of living independently. The apartments were looking great. The first time that I was there, it was a dream come true because I had some help with the program called LLC that would come in and help me and get my furniture in and get me set up for everything. And they have like supports there to get like all the mail and on my budget system all set up, and they're like real heroes for me because they are like helping me a lot too, even my parents too, because they thought that they're incredible. But of course I still have like some fears of like critters or something that would crawl and stuff. So
He had an influx of moths, didn't you, Michael?
yeah.
Oh no, those are things we don't think about when we're getting ready to live on our own that we have to figure out, huh?
Yeah.
Oh man, that is not fun.
Um,
That's so cool, though. I love hearing about the supports. Yeah, Stephanie.
what type of decoration did they do, Michael?
They have like they helped me put out like fun decorations that I wanted to do, and so it's like a theme of Harry Potter, and I love Harry Potter a lot, so I have like a lot of socks that made out of castles and stuff, and I love the living situation here because of that.
That's awesome. I love that you get to make it your own, like Brianna mentioned too.
Yeah.
Stephanie and Dean, I'm curious for you guys, how has that been, transitioning Michael from on-campus housing to living independently in the community? What does that look like?
Well, he came home for a while, for about close to a year, maybe not that long, maybe 6 months before he went into the apartment. And we looked at several things. We looked at like him living in a host home, but we just couldn't find anything that he really liked or that we really liked either and felt comfortable with. So this one, he's about a 20-minute drive from us. And that way, if he needs something that is not provided, we can be there in relatively quick time to help him get what he needs. As part of the people that found the apartment for him, they have someone come each week to take him grocery shopping, but we also set up something with Lakewood, what's it called? Lakewood Ride, where he could just get on the bus, on this particular bus, and go and get groceries and then come back. So we're still in the process of working through the transportation portion.
Yeah, that's a big piece for sure.
Brianna can talk about transportation. Right,
What do
Bri?
you use? What do you use, Brianna, for transportation?
For transportation, I use Uber.
Awesome. And wasn't there, Janet, there's like a direct bus in your area of town, I had thought you had mentioned.
Well, she's across from the light rail station.
Okay.
So she does have a pass for that, and she has had training on it, but we're not really comfortable with her being in the light rail alone.
Yeah.
And right now there's not really any place that she'd be going alone somewhere on the train, but she does have Uber. So down here in the Denver metro area, you can get through Access-a-Ride, you can get Uber, Lyft. There's like 2 or 3 taxi companies. Of course, there's the Access-a-Ride bus, and Lone Tree has its own on-demand link shuttle. But basically, she's been using mostly just Uber because that's been the easiest and quickest.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
That's
awesome.
what we're working on, but we still haven't heard back from them.
Very cool. Well, Brendan, we'd love to hear from you, sir. Coming back from
Yes.
Greeley. Okay, let me ask you a couple pointed questions here.
Okay.
Did you live with your family right after you graduated?
Yeah, actually, I did. Yeah,
How long were you with them before you moved into your own apartment?
I think it was probably like probably I think I was with my parents after college. I think it was like took like 2 years with them. Then I
Yeah.
in last June I moved to my own apartment. So
Awesome. And do you have a roommate that you're living with?
I do. Yes, I do.
Okay, how did you land that roommate? What made you select that roommate?
Well, first I know him once, but I gave him back. So
Brendan, do you want me to maybe answer that part? Is that okay?
sure.
So a couple things combined. Brendan got on the DD waiver. He had SLS support services. And which pays for your day program, Brendan, and your transportation there and a few other things. And then you got on the next level of services, and that opened up the family caregiver piece, which I was going to be, but then Taylor expressed interest in having Brendan be his roommate.
Awesome.
And he owns this small condo in Golden, and they so anyway, so Brendan lives with him, and he's actually Brendan's paid family caregiver, and then we just still help with we kind of divvied up the roles.
Well, he's also my friend too. So.
And he's your friend. And how you've known Taylor a long time. How long have you known him? I think you guys figured that
11 years now.
Yeah.
Cool.
So he like does some stuff for you that he gets paid for, but you guys also like do friend stuff. So it's kind of a unique relationship, huh?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a really cool setup, Brendan.
And it's only like 10-12 minutes from our house, which is
actually it is 10 minutes.
it's 10 minutes. Okay. Thanks for correcting me.
Sure.
And if we go a different way, he knows. Brendan, I think they talked about transportation. How do you get to
Yes.
work?
Yeah, so from work I always take a Uber from back to back from like after my work, and like I always take Uber from work and after work.
Awesome. You're using Uber too. Very cool.
Yeah, and
Well-
sometimes like my mom may always take me back, and yeah.
So sometimes you get rides with your roommate.
Yeah.
Very cool. I love that. Well, it's
Yeah.
awesome to see that you guys started, developing some of these skills on a college campus, kind of learning with all of those supports right in place. And now you've taken some time after graduation and now you've all landed in your own apartments where you're still using services and using supports, but you're putting that into action in the real world. And so you all should be very proud of yourselves. I'm very encouraged by all the work that you've done to be independent. So I just want to thank you guys for sharing those things. I'm going to wrap up just kind of leaving it this kind of open for anybody to share just how you would say college prepared you to be independent. If there's anything specific that stood out to you of like those times during college that really prepared you, or anything else that you would want to share with people listening in to this panel. So I'll just kind of leave that open and see where we go.
Going to class on time, doing homework on time. Those are both things. And I'm trying to think of what other things.
I would say
Those are both great.
her having there were expectations placed on her by somebody other than the parents. She had to live up to the expectations of the Office of Inclusive Services, the mentors, professors, her peers. So it was a wider circle of people that had high expectations for her.
I
Yeah.
agree.
Was that you, Stephanie?
Yeah, I agree too. It was the same thing with Michael. They expected things of him that I never would have expected of him. And they had much higher expectations, and I'm so glad they did.
So wonderful. Well, I just want to thank you all for taking the time to share your experiences and share your perspectives. This is going to mean a lot to other students and families that have students interested in college and interested in living on their own. So really thankful for your voices and your input. Well, thank you all so much. I appreciate you. Grads, it's always so encouraging to hear what you're up to and what you've accomplished. And I just want to remind you that you're such an encouragement to other students just like you, that they can know that they can live independently and enjoy life and things that they love. So thank you so much for sharing your story. And thank you, parents, for giving your input. It's really powerful too. So